sensational from OpTic. Kenny lighting it up at range.
Absolutely ripping his way through those players. The kills just don't stop for Dashi.
OpTic Gaming have done it. And it's Slasher. And suddenly the sweep comes in from OpTic.
TJ, the shots, he's only gone and got it.
How many players is gonna kill?
Seattle, what a start to the series.
Seattle shut him down.
Perfect push there from Slack.
Apathy to win the gunfight. Octane, an absolute god. Pander is going huge. Surge on an absolute tear.
Welcome back, Call of Duty fans, to the Toronto home series, as we have got a lovely series lined up for you all, as we've got the Seattle Surge taking on OpTic Gaming Los Angeles in an elimination match. I'm Lando, and joining me are my guys. We've got Studdy, we've got Nameless. Boys, like I said, we've got a great series on our hands, and it makes it even more intense at the fact that this is going to be an elimination game. You win, you move on to face off against the Huntsmen. You lose, and you are done. And that is not what anybody wants to do, especially with champs right around the corner. We talk about this series, we talk about OGLA, we also have to provide the emphasis on the Surge, because I'll be honest with you guys, it kind of has been more of a one-man band throughout a lot of this year. Sam, Octane, LaRue, he's been the main force. He's been one of the main kind of keys to victory, if you will, before we kind of even get into it in terms of what you'd expect to see. But Nameless, we talked about the numbers from Octane so far throughout the year. Who's going to be here to help this guy?
Well, yesterday on that first hardpoint, you saw Apathy and Slack. They had a ton of engagements. They were playing at that high pace, and even Proto had a 1.04 throughout the series. So, I mean, they did assist him a bit yesterday. You just have to play around him at this point. He's really a star in our league, and he's just taking over games. I mean, that map one yesterday was incredible out of Sam, and the rest of the guys weren't too much off the mark there, so...
Yeah, right. I mean, I think it's fair to say a few of the Seattle players were definitely kind of stepping up at different moments. Obviously, Stud, we had the cast on that one versus Chicago yesterday. It definitely wasn't as one-sided as maybe some people would like to claim, but let's go ahead and get into it. I already was kind of alluding to the keys to victory. We'll go ahead and get into the game fuel keys to victory here first for Seattle. Nameless, walk us through them.
Yeah, I called out Proto yesterday before that series about how, he was kind of underperforming, he needed to step up, and he stepped up big time, and the series was a lot closer than I thought it would be. Octane could take over games. It's no secret right now that they need to play to his strengths, they need to play around him. Have that added pressure in Apathy and Slack, try to get those engagements up. They were like 26 and 26 each, like something like that, just pushing in front of them, and that's what they need to do for Octane so he can take over these games in this current meta that, is his strength.
I'll be honest, man. I gotta tell you what, some of these player cams are just absolutely fascinating. I'm not sure exactly what we're looking at here with Pander. Slack's kind of in the opposite angle, but let's go and talk about game fuel keys to victory now here for OGLA, Nameless.
Yeah, expect more in S&D out of TJ Halley and Slasher. They didn't play particularly bad. It's not what you expect out of historical great Surge players, right? Like, when it comes down to the wire, in a Game 5 situation, or, round 10, round 11, in any Search and Destroy, you expect these players to step up and go big for the squad. Unfortunately, they fell short in their Search and Destroys yesterday, and I just expect them to do better, man. These guys are going to remember who they are and step up and Search and Destroy, because this is a team that should be clutching up and closing out games. You're talking about, a world champion and a player who's won multiple championships. So it's something I expect out of OpTic, especially, with the young guys setting that sort of example.
Definitely, man. Like I said, the young guys mixed in with veterans, OGLA, a nice mix to say the least. But let's go and get into our predictions for this match. Studdy, we'll start with you, buddy.
I think I'm definitely going to go OpTic in a 3-1. They just need to come out firing. We saw them yesterday versus the Toronto Ultra. They ended up losing both Search and Destroys, but it was all in the back of Cammy. He was unbelievable. Slasher could not get away from his sniper scope, but definitely I just feel like OpTic are a lot more prepared when it comes to these respawns, so I'm going to choose them 3-1.
All right, Nameless.
All right, so I'm going OpTic Gaming 3-2, but I have to say something about this moment. Seattle has an opportunity to play spoiler right now.
Yeah.
If you think about it, misery loves company. There's been a lot of situations like this where a team just needs to win a couple games to get that seed, and they get taken out by a team that they should not lose to. Look across on that other team. You got Slack, who definitely wants to beat TJ Halley. You have Octane, who wants to beat Slasher. Like, there are some storylines in this series, and Seattle wants to beat this team very bad. But I'm still going OpTic 3-2. I think they'll step it up and close it out in game 5.
Definitely, man. Well, I'm definitely starting on you guys. I'm going with OGLA as well, and I think it also has the capability to go to game 5. As you talked about it, Study, I think that Seattle kind of impressed me yesterday. I think they looked pretty good, especially when we talk about that search and destroy, which is going to be a key emphasis here for them. So, I don't know. I think at least when we talk about this series, I think it has the ability to go the distance. And we talk about casting pairs. We've had some good luck so far, Stub. We've had a few game 5s.
Yeah, man. Game 5 after game 5. We might get a 3-0 here and there, but I love the game 5s, man. It keeps my blood pumping.
Absolutely, buddy. We get more search and destroy, the better. Well, Nameless, we appreciate it as always, my friend. And we'll see you in just a bit.
Take it easy.
Alrighty, Study. Seattle Surge, OpTic Gaming, like we discussed. Loser goes home. Winner goes on to face off against the Chicago Huntsmen. What for Seattle? It will be a rematch, which they looked pretty solid yesterday, to be honest with you, as we've kind of alluded to it. OGLA kind of losing a heartbreaking series yesterday versus the Ultra. We talked about search and destroy, key emphasis kind of for them as well, considering the way that Draza looked in comparison. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. Hardpoint Gunrunner OGLA 4-4. Seattle 2-6 in terms of their record throughout the season. Study, let's get into it, my friend.
Yeah, man. I'm expecting big plays out of Draza and Hollow. They were the only two players from OGLA yesterday that were able to sit over a 1.0. We need bigger plays out of Kenny and TJ. And, you know, the captain that he is in Slasher, for him to step up as well. One thing that I like from the Surge yesterday when we were watching him versus the Huntsmen, their rotations on this map were flawless. You had consistent gameplay overall throughout the entire team. You know, Octane going double positive, leading the way. But if they're able to replicate that the same way they played versus the Huntsmen, then this should be a really good match.
It definitely should be, man. I'm excited to see exactly how this one begins to line out, as we'll kind of see Seattle currently with the more preferred spawns when we talk about that next rotation over at Munition Depot, which is going to be the emphasis pretty much for everybody, OGLA included. They're happy to grab a majority of this time, just kind of in light of most likely how Munition will begin to play out. But take a look as we kind of reference through middle, that top side of the tracks. That's player number 2, TJ. He actually gets cut out. Seattle doing a great job at making sure nobody gets through.
And that's good for the side of Seattle. Only giving up 18 points on P1. Usually see other teams get at least 40 to 50 because they just want to secure that second spawn for that P2. They were able to contest it a lot there, only giving up 18. Now they have a full setup at P2. Let's see how many waves of kills they can chain together and start building this lead.
Indeed we will. Octane from the skies. Able to drop one, get some nice assistance on the second and the third, and make it a fourth. Sam LaRue having a wonderful start to this hard point as OGLA fearing for their lives. The nades, the SMGs, they are hot as everybody just trying to make their way out of bathroom. And Octane's stalling them himself. Great work coming through from the M4 that will definitely bring the pain from time to time, as OGLA pretty much already realizing this one is somewhat done. Seattle hold well. We've got multiple players on streaks. That's Proto on 4, Octane on 4, and just as I was discussing it, Apathy on 5. Impressive stuff coming through from the Surge.
It's a great bounce back out of the Surge there. They were able to basically get a full 60, just a little bit of contention, but getting 52 points on P2, that's job well done. Now, The thing that they did yesterday versus the Huntsmen, when they rotated towards P3, they weren't the early one there, but they were able to break it really fast. So if they're able to repeat that once again, even if they're not winning the rotations, their breaks yesterday were flawless. So if they can continue that, then they should be able to open this game wide open.
That's a great point. Seattle, a good position for now, and you like what they've done so far throughout this game, considering the way that P2 looked. And like I said, getting these guys hot early is going to be good for them, because when we talk about Game 1 hard points for the Surge, it hasn't been a great season for them in terms of it. It's been 7-14 on the year. So if they can walk away with the Game 1 hard point, we talk about how good they looked yesterday in Search, who knows? It could be a good start for the Surge. As Slack trying to clear out the back of the base, but fortunately he gets cut down. Octane is there for some assistance, as now we'll head over toward cargo containers, and Octane's continuing to pick up kills over toward that forest side. He says, challenge me. Why not? Close range, long range. The man can do it all, Steady.
Yeah, that was a big kill from Octane onto Draza. If Draza was able to take up that kill, he would be able to spawn them in that back warehouse and just continue to trap them in, just giving OGLA free points at this P4 hill. And as I say that, you see Seattle, they're going to spawn right behind it. But if you're OpTic, you're not too mad about this. You want to fight this from the front, you know, rotating towards P5, you guys can definitely hold a full 60. You see Quavo Kenny pushing out all the way towards the right, just giving up enough time to just gain this time, no contention possible, and the lead is starting to decrease.
It is indeed. Seattle, we talked about players earning streaks. Kenny now, that's 5 in a row. Can he make it 6? Has to go for the reload, but his presence was felt, to say the least, as now it's pretty much set up for OpTic, as they now have the spawns, and you kind of like a few of the players that are separated throughout the map. You've got TJ up close, who unfortunately does not win that fight versus Slack, so the talking point on OGLA starts to decrease a little. But TJ, a wonderful spot for the flank. We'll see how much damage he can do. That's going to be the first. Slack just pretty much catering around the corner. Unfortunately, is going to be sitting prone, and it'll be an easy kill for TJ. So that's now going to be 3 in a row for him.
Yeah, this is a beautiful hold. Seattle look like they're trying to do the same exact thing they did yesterday, and that's push around that jungle side and try to go for that backside, basically to get those spawns. But TJ's holding on line right here, just picking up on a 5-kill spree currently, trying to get 6. Abby's able to take him down, but this is a job well done out of OGLA. They basically got 45 seconds here, retake the lead. Now it's going into the second rotation of hard points. They have to fix up that P2 because they got 60'd on in the first rotation.
As we kind of look out through the score lines, really for everybody up to this point, as Kenny loses a long-range fight versus Octane, former teammates in the duel. Octane 13 and 11, Apathy 15 and 14. Really kind of everybody carrying the load for Surge, which was the big discussion coming into this, was can somebody step up and help out Sam on the other end for OGLA? What you've got 17 and 14 out of TJ, 17 and 12 from Hollow as he just ended the streak, and Draza as well playing solid. But Surge, like we said, with those preferred spawns set up for P2 right now, and I feel like I can't go maybe, a few seconds without calling somebody on a streak here, Study. At least everybody in this game has been hot so far.
Yeah, everyone is chaining kills. It's basically even in the slaying department for both teams, and this is a great sight to see. They had their preferred hard points. Obviously, if you're going to get the spawns for certain hard points, you're going to get more time, more kills going in your favor, and it's going back and forth right now. OpTic have a 40-point lead. They still don't have the spawns for P2, and you're going to see that Seattle is once again set up, but I'm looking at that number 4 player in Hollow. Is he going to be able to pick up a couple kills and eventually play for the pinch?
Hollow definitely one of the key pieces. We'll see if he can start to sneak his way in. He actually just manages to get through the door. It was Apathy who was trying to cut him down. Eventually he does. And in the meantime, it's OGLA. Kenny from the skies trying to pick up for where his fallen comrade just left off, and Kenny will do all that he needs. That's 4 in a row for him. Streaking successfully is good old Quavo Kenny, and it looks as if OGLA do manage to break on in. A solid footing coming through from the OpTic side as Octane, another streak for him, of course. Why not? As Kenny says, you know what, 5 streak, that's beautiful. How about a 6 for myself, as he'll be taken down to no avail. A successful break from OGLA, but Seattle, they're set up for next.
And you see the adjustments there. Kenny was able to sneak around that backside, ended up picking Glitch is able to take him down and put themselves in a better lead now. Now it's all about how Seattle Surge are going to play this setup. You see one player in in Proto, all the way pushed up on that train side. Is he going to be able to pick up more kills here and try to keep him off this contestant? But that number 5 player, once again, Draza, coming around the back. Is he going to be able to make that play? And as I say that, he gets taken down.
Seattle having enough forces to issue into this fight as the smokes are out, the vision is blind, but that really shouldn't stop Apathy from continuing to be successful. And why not? A 5 straight for Apathy. Can he make it a 6? Unfortunately, he cannot, as the Surge will hold on to a majority of this time. Draza trying to be influential on the flank. Looks as if he'll be able to find a kill. OGLA will grab the last few seconds of this one, it seems. But it's really just about kind of fighting for these spawns for the most part, as Seattle will continue to hold control of that. So if you are OGLA, you manage to break in, get some time, but we'll see if Kenny can be sneaky on the flank. He gets cut down as well, but you're going to have a few of these stragglers study, a few of these scouts continuing to look for information, as a majority of OGLA players coming from tracks, but player 4, that's Hollow. He could play spoiler here.
Yeah, that's exactly who I'm looking at is player 4, Hollow. He's going to have his teammates getting that favorable spawn for that P5. Now the time is just going back and forth. Only a 9-point lead for OGLA. But it was a big opening kill from TJ on the Slack. They were able to give him the beginning points into this hard point. But as you said it, Hollow, he was able to give his team the spawns for the next hill. And this should be a wide open game now. It's going down to the wire, basically tied game. And now who's going to be able to make that big play to open this game wide open?
That's the question, Ryan. Who's going to be able to make the big play? As that's definitely one of them, right? Hollow's kind of influential spawn flip. As now OG will be sitting pretty inside of Warehouse. Slasher pretty stoked about it, as you can see. And things are all quiet, but not for long. The Surge hoping to storm their way in the door. Slack, one of the first players to do it. Pander, Apathy combining for 2 off the start. Hollow and Draza, good work coming in from them, as OpTic, like you referenced, spawning just outside of the hill, as they'll be able to pretty much successfully collapse on in. TJ finds one. TJ not the second, though. But keep in mind, Proto is in this back parking lot. He's trying to help out the spawns for the future. OGLA now spawning over toward Cargo.
I thought that was a beautiful play from the Seattle Surge. They were able to pinch both sides, opening up with 2 kills on that track side. Then the pinch was going around the back left. Then the players from the OGLA roster, such as Draza, were able to just play their life in there and just stall enough time for his teammates to get back, not giving up full control to the Surge. Surge eventually are going to take control in the lead right now, only up at least 12 points, but now the thing is, it's going to get scary because OGLA do have the spawns for P2. It just depends on how much time Seattle Surge can get on this P1 middle hill.
Yeah, I feel like if you are OpTic as well, kind of, you know, in specifics to that P5, granted you lose control, but you do kind of have that set up for next, which is going to be what the Surge are heavily fighting over. Is Apathy raining down some terror over here in Cargo. They may have a setup pushed up well enough to the point that they can get some free time over here at center platform, but looks as if the slate is clear. Pander back with the M4, kind of fading out toward middle, as he'll be grabbing a few of these remaining seconds, but Seattle doing everything they can to lock down some time. OGLA clearing out middle every chance they get and hoping to get some good moments here on Depot.
I'm loving the stat lines from the Seattle Surge. You see Apathy 34 and 26, Proto 32 and 27, and of course Octane 30 and 22. All stepping up huge for the team when the team needs it. Now let's see if they're able to get another break on this desperately needed hill right here, because if they cannot contest this, OGLA are only going to be a couple points away from closing out this map 1. You see Slack going to go right through this front door. Is he going to be able to get the 2? Unfortunately, he doesn't. Now sitting at 200 points is OGLA, only needing 50 points left to close out this match.
In Seattle, they do get a pretty far back spawn, so you have to keep that into the mindset. Panner, blind to the smoke. He'll have to win a few of these key fights. He'll get taken down. Slack does as well, as they know they've done enough. They set up for the rotation, and you'll kind of take this if you are OGLA. If you've got a few players on streaks, that's 7 as a team. But now it's all set on Surge. OGLA, they'll be just under 20 points, maybe around 15 to get this one done. In Seattle, it's about holding. It's about trying to set up for this HP. Very well could be the last one of the game. And somewhat slow off the start, player 4, Hollow, trying to make his way in. We saw him be an issue in terms of the flank previously, but it's TJ walking through the front. He and Draza together are doing the work that they need. Surge completely caught off guard as here comes the smoke. TJ still finding players. despite being blind, Seattle trying to make their way through, but they're running right through the blender. A few more seconds left, and this one is done. OGLA break, OGLA win. Hardpoint.
Yeah, man, I think they just dominated P5 to a great extent there. They were able to at least get, I think, around 90 points between the two hills there. And that was the bounce back for me. For them flipping those spawns, especially when it was rotating back towards P1, you seen OpTic Gaming, they were just able to retake the spawns for P2 and securing that, making sure they were able to take that lead. It gave Seattle Surge, they were able to pick up a couple kills in that middle P1 hardpoint, but there was just nobody on the hill. The score, if they had one person on the hill, they probably would have been down only at least 30 to 20 points to be able to close out that map. Unfortunately, they were just trying to play for positioning, trying to play for the spawns a lot, and it cost them in the very end. Good first map out of OpTic Gaming.
Yeah, good first map out of OpTic, and now we're obviously going to be kind of focusing on the search and destroy here for the future. But nonetheless, I mean, as we've been kind of, having this same discussion in terms of the surge, it has been this issue in Game 1 hardpoints. Is now they're 7-15 in these, and like I said, a roster that kind of coming into the year, a lot of people had a lot of expectations for in terms of the respawns. I mean, outside of domination, they've really struggled when it comes down to their hardpoints. They kind of tend to get better as the series progresses, but as we take a look here at a U.S. Air Force quick scope, it has kind of been OGLA somewhat on the rise in terms of record, in terms of stats. You can kind of argue back and forth, but obviously some different spots right now. But we'll go and take a look at our maps and modes coming into this, as we'll see for game number 2, Search and Destroy will in fact be played on Gunrunner. And study as we kind of take a look throughout the maps a little bit. We got Gunrunner for game 1, game 2, Hackney Dom for game 3. You think there's a preference here, a team maybe that has the advantage throughout these first 3?
Oh, when it comes to the Search and Destroys, I'm going to give the advantage to the Seattle Surge. I know they probably haven't had a good record throughout the entire year, but OpTic LA is just a brand new team. And when you're playing Search and Destroy, the strats and everything, you have to fill in, especially with 2 new players. You got to bring them in and try to fit them in the gaps. And obviously, you saw Draza yesterday, unbelievable performance in those Search and Destroys. Pretty sure he had like 17 kills. But when we're talking about consistency, yesterday, Seattle Surge went 6-5 and unfortunately losing that map to the Huntsmen. With a couple adjustments, you saw when Slack was pushing them all the way in that jungle side, being aggressive towards that beat bomb site, it was working out for them. Also taking mid-map control as well. So I'm expecting this to be to go nitty-gritty down to the wire here on this map too. But if the Seattle Surge end up losing this, we saw them yesterday versus the Huntsmen on that Hackney Dom. They just weren't able to flip those spawns. So this is going to be that bounce back map if they're going to want to fight back in this series.
Sure, and we see the stats here quickly from Draza. OGLA, a 1.62 in S&D yesterday. Unreal. Definitely contributing to the team exactly when they need it. Obviously, they didn't get the W yesterday versus the home team in the Toronto Ultra, but he was definitely pretty scary. And when we talk about the stats, I mean, you kind of, I think, brought it up kind of leading into that game 1 hardpoint stud. It was really the young guns, right? Being the pieces for OGLA yesterday, as Hollow finishes off with a 1.02, Draza with a 1.18. I think it kind of is a matter of the other guys kind of stepping up, which is kind of odd to say. We talk about guys like Kenny, TJ, and Slasher, who have been dominant all year, or other kind of throughout their entire careers. You think if this kind of becomes more of a collaborative effort, that they should be walking away with series like this. I don't want to say easily, but I'll say handily. How about that?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's a fairly new team with adding Draza and Hollow, so they're still trying to fix those kinks, that they do have in Search and Destroy. Respawn, everyone scrims it on a daily basis. They just need to fill those gaps, and they're doing it pretty well so far. Ever since these 2 came to that roster, they've improved a lot in their respawn. So when it goes to the Search and Destroy, it's all about just cleaning up those little mistakes. You see the record, 1-4 for OGLA, 3-7 for Seattle. But yesterday, Seattle, like I said, put up a great fight versus the Huntsmen. Hopefully, they're able to clean up some of those defensive rounds that they had yesterday, because it all relied on basically who's going to get the first blood and who's going to win the more defenses on this map.
It definitely is, and we saw the aggression from Surge yesterday. It was fantastic, like we said, despite the round 11 loss. But again, it's versus the Huntsmen, a solid Search and Destroy team, to say the least. As OGLA answering early, that's going to be TJ and Draza. The SMG's up close here in cargo, as the bomb does end up getting dropped. And Octane trying to be all the sneaky. Realizes how powerful that rock head glitch can be and quickly gets out of dodge, as he and Apathy will have to encompass now a 2 versus 3. Apathy already with A kill so far throughout this one is going to find Slasher on the flank and can start to combine for a few more. Instantly hits the deck, tosses out the nade. And this is going to be great. Octane set up on the other side here as he'll take down TJ. Now a 1 versus 2 for Hollow. The turntables as Hollow. Bomb down, 20 seconds to work with. Gets dropped in Seattle despite what was a scary situation to start. Octane and Apathy, they get it done.
And that's such a huge round for the Surge, winning a defense, especially on the very first round of the map. And a man disadvantage as well. I saw Slasher. He was pushing through that train side, was able to come up behind one. I would have liked him to play that a little better, just trap them in basically at that beat bomb site, not giving Apathy any room to try to hit a flank, and that's exactly what Apathy did. He had to have realized that Slasher hit the rat back. Apathy pushing right through that pipes, able to take out one, just cause havoc at that site. Beautiful round out of Surge right there.
Beautiful round of the Surge, beautiful round out of Octane and Apathy as Kenny on the other end combines for 2 off the start, and instantly it is Proto left all by himself. Wow. Stopwatch, I don't even know how fast that round was, but it's definitely in competition for a record. And my goodness, study OGLA through this mid-map is something special.
Love that, man. I remember before I blinked and the round was over. This time I was like mid-blink and it was already over. Kenny was able to pop up with that 2-piece, causing havoc, just setting the tone right off the rip. They were able to bounce back with that huge defensive round. Now it's looking like a defensive map so far. Who's going to be able to open a round with the big offense? And as you see, that OGLA are just going to take their talents to that A-bomb.
They are indeed, and no one really here for Surge. And at times, you just really don't want to echo too much information over toward this site just because of how uncommon it is, but right timing for OGLA. Apathy carefully clanking throughout the multiple beams as Draza trying to do the same on the other end. The M4s are solid. The SMGs are as well as OGLA in a wonderful position as they collapse. They take over the site and they grab themselves the round.
OGLA are just playing at a totally different pace right now. That's 2 back-to-back rounds where they're making the play come to them. What a rush plan onto that A site. Greatly executed from OpTic Gaming. Let's see if they can keep it up with another defensive win to open this map wide open.
Yeah, man, defensive rounds. I tell you what, on this map specifically, you talk about, like, you know, how common they've been. We'll see if the trend can continue as OGLA now with the opportunity. Surge, you like their chances, but you've got currently 3 players combining for 0-9. Not the greatest of stat lines, but Pander quickly puts up one himself. A nice little breadstick. I know the Grubhub segment's already ended, but, you know... It's dinner time here in near the East Coast, but regardless, a 3-piece toward the back end, possibly for OGLA as they try to issue the forces there, and Draza has to try to reference out. TJ gets caught off guard, an instant 2v4 situation now for Slasher and Draza, but take a look at this perspective from Draza. Does take down the first. Is he ready for the second? He gets taken down. Slasher all by his lonesome as he gets picked off. Body hits the ground, and Surge, they level things.
Love the adjustments out of Panda that round. He realized that OGLA were just playing so fast. You need to be able to have a player that's going to slow them down, and that's exactly what Panda did. He was currently sitting at 0-3, able to pop that first blood. Heads up play on the rat back to that flank area, was able to take down another, eventually get traded. But that was just a good pace settler. He just decided to play slow, let the play come to them. He knew how aggressive OGLA were playing, and that was a great, just even round to even them out and force it to a 2-2.
Early nades and Hollow.
Oh my god.
There's 2 for him. Headshots galore as Seattle are instantly on the retreat. Proto, other side of the map, and you see how aggressive OGLA were. They just look like a pack of wolves. Ready for who could be next, and Proto, good luck, my friend. 4 men alive, Hollow planting the bomb. And really in the situation study, I don't think it's necessarily how you want to engage, it's just a matter of do you. And Proto Vins to not, most likely would have seen the same result regardless.
It's like when both teams are playing aggressive, OpTic is just winning all their one-on-one gunfights. Hollow with a big opening two-piece right there, followed up by Slasher with the third kill. They're just taking them down one by one, but it's so fast-paced. You're leaving that last player out alive who's going to hit that late flank to try to make a miracle happen. That's not what happened, obviously. OGLA able to take the lead 3-2.
Now we get to see Seattle kind of test their wits over at A. Hollow the only man here for now, so quickly try to get out of dodge. And Surge, they've managed to make this bomb pretty much their campsite. Apathy finding the first onto Draza. And kind of an interesting spread, but take a look at player 2. Shout out to the observers doing the work for me. TJ, fantastic position as he'll catch one off guard, and I love that play there, Study. Quickly gets out just to make sure that the presence is constantly felt for Seattle. They've always got the worry in the back of their minds that TJ is on the flank. Octane says, yeah, you know what, there's too little time. I don't have a whole lot of attention to try to focus on who could be on the flank, and Apathy finally does manage to shut down TJ. 20 seconds left, and they're going to have to run into this one. They're going to have to try to find the bomb, and Kenny's not going to allow that to happen. Takes down Apathy, and Octane as well will fall. OGLA take the 4-2 advantage.
Seattle Surge looked like they were going for the full A push. I would have liked to see them plant that bomb down a little quicker so then the play can develop on them and they can get their setup ready to go. They just waited so long, gave TJ the opening on the flank side to push around, get one kill. Kenny, I'm pretty sure, picked up 4 kills that round. Great job out of Kenny, but it all started with TJ. TJ opened it up with that flank. Like I said, I just wish Seattle would have planted that a little quicker so the play would come to them.
Slacked, unfortunately, after a few rounds. Currently sitting at 0-5. He does manage to find the first pick right on call. Has to trade his life for it, but it is a worthy transaction in the end. If you are Seattle, trades will do, but Proto quickly does get foiled. In the meantime, Octane as well with the pistol, getting caught off guard. Kenny, how about a 5 spree for him as Pander now thrown into the gauntlet. See what he can try to come up with, and Draza, I think there was some teammate support. We'll hope to see that as we get to watch this one again. Draza rounds the corner, and we'll say Kenny got a few extra shots. How about that, Stud?
Yeah, definitely a few extra shots. Had to be some teamwork. Draza with an insane drop shot there to close that out. But I feel like when they opened it up with that 2-piece on that flank, they had the bomb down, but that information must have not been collected. You see all of OpTic. They realized that they had to make a play. They just pushed through that B bomb site, catching the players from the Seattle Surge. Just not prepared for that. If they would have gained that information that the bomb was down, it'd probably be a totally different round. But now OpTic Gaming is up 5-2, 1 round away from closing out the map.
Good situation for OGLA. We'll see if Surge can continue to distance them back, and looks as if not a whole lot of forces efforted over at B. OGLA, 3 players kind of currently sitting inside a Cole as nades will be traded back and forth. Draza not too keen on the engagement, which definitely makes sense, but makes his presence felt. Slacked on one end, Pander on the other, as now Young Hollow left in a situation to clutch in Seattle. They won't give him the chance.
Yeah, so OpTic have played defensive 2 different ways. They're either sending 3 players on the flank or 3 players pushing through that B bomb site. It's unfortunate right there. That was one of the rounds where they went 3 flank, and the 2 players that were watching over that B bomb site eventually get taken down, put them in a 5v3 situation. It's kind of tough. Seattle Surge just won those gunfights, put the bomb down, had the map control on their side of the map, on the jungle side, and they just completely executed that round perfectly.
OGLA, now their chance here, Stud, to lock things up. We talked about their aggressiveness. How about that from Kenny? Inside of green, slacked on the other end, does manage to take down Draza while blind. The engagements are only going to continue as Kenny up close shuts down Slacked, but it's now all up to Slasher. A 1 versus 2 is going to catch his old teammate Octane on the flank. And can he find the second one as well? And he does! What a 1 versus 2 coming in from Slasher. A quick little snap of the finger and the round is theirs. And talk about a swing coming through from OGLA.
Oh my God, Kenny went really big on like the last couple of rounds there. You know, the previous defensive round popping 4, and you see him opening up right there on that last round with first blood, eventually getting 3 huge plays out of Kenny there. But Slasher was able to win that 1v2. He killed that second guy so fast. I couldn't even believe it. But OGLA are looking solid going into map number 3. Up 2-0 in the series. They're playing for that top 8 placing. Hopefully they can close it out and be more momentum going towards that next series versus Chicago.
That's a great point, right? Because like I said, we got to see, OGLA a little bit versus Toronto, and, things at times were a little bit shaky, but they did walk away with, back-to-back respawns. They looked very good here in the search and destroy, which can be kind of the key to success, facing off against a team like Chicago if it were to come about. But I'll tell you what, man, OGLA just at different moments looked fantastic. And this is kind of mimicking what we saw when they faced off against each other at the London home series, right? It was a victory for OGLA. They win it 3-1. They win the hard point, I don't know, around like 25 points. They win the search and destroy 6-1. And in this situation, kind of the same, right? They win the hard point by about 20. They win the search and destroy here 6-3. OGLA just kind of picking up from where they left off, but we'll go and take a look at our U.S. Army tactical play here with Slasher, who was definitely causing some problems, to say the least here, Study.
Yeah, man, I love to see Slasher play the way he does, especially in Search and Destroy. He's always that island player. He knows exact timing, the way he wants to hit that flank, and you see him in this 2v1 situation, puts himself behind the players, completely catches Octane off guard, then forces that 1v1 situation between him and Proto. He was able to hit some tremendous shots onto Proto, basically melted him, and he was just able to win this 1v2 for his team to close out the map in a 6-3 fashion. Beautiful plays out of Slasher.
Indeed, Slasher doing some Slasher things, that's without question, my friend. But like I said, leading OGLA to a current 2-0 advantage. And like we said, this kind of sets up Seattle because they have been a solid team. When we talk about a mode like Domination, they're one of the best teams in the league at it, definitely top 5. They're currently 13-9 in their overall record. This is kind of the mode that they rely on, but it kind of has come through this Game 1, Game 2 kind of lack of performance, and what could be their very last match of the regular season could kind of echo what they've been doing throughout a lot of this year so far, Study.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that in this Domination, they definitely put up a better fight than they did versus the Huntsmen. Like I said, they just weren't able to flip those spawns on the Hackney Dom. Players from the Huntsmen were just holding them down one by one, winning those individual gunfights. We also need players to step up on this map tremendously, looking at Slack, looking at Proto, and also Apathy when you're talking about that sub work, because you need to be able to be aggressive, be able to win those gunfights, especially in those close range gunfights, especially on P1, and also pushing through and just winning those individual gunfights to flip those spawns.
Definitely, man. But like we said, Domination, it's teed up, it's set up. We'll see whether or not the Seattle Surge can start to make this series interesting, because it has been all OGLA up to this point. Of course, stay with us on whether or not Seattle can make the clutch or OGLA can win this in a hot 3-0.
In my slurpee and I slurp. Wet, cold, ice.
Yo, Proto, welcome to the Scarborough Bluffs, the most beautiful part of Scarborough. Someone reach Patty King, because man's out here is Marv, that lie? Scene. Those patties are lit, dog. I'm gonna murk them real quick still.
Duty League is brought to you by Metro by T-Mobile. Stay connected to what matters most with the best value in wireless.
Welcome back, folks. We're in the midst of a fantastic series currently going on between the Surge and OpTic Gaming. But I tell you what, Studdy, I have absolutely loved my time watching a few of these commercial breaks. I tell you what, Toronto, they have definitely put on a fantastic event up to this point here as we are in the middle of CDL Saturday. But like I said, their content has been absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, man, watching that first piece with Classic, you know, doing the accents, but it was all about that beef patty for me. I call it a beef patty, but every time somebody, like, tries to say they know what it is, they always tell me it's a burger. I guess the proper way to say it is Jamaican beef patty because it's honestly amazing. One of the best things you could probably ever eat. Get it from all your pizza shops. It's the greatest thing ever. So I call it a beef patty, but I guess the proper terminology is a Jamaican beef patty, but it's so good, man.
You're schooling me, man. You're schooling me on some of this this food talk. I tell you what, maybe you should be having some of these pictures along with Miles and
I'd beat them both. I'd beat them both.
Okay, I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. OGLA 4 sweeps so far throughout this year. Can they make it a fifth as we enter in toward domination on Hackney? And like we said, Studdy, this has kind of been the mode that the Surge have relied upon all year. A lot of their series have kind of been these 3-1s where they go down 2-0, they win the dom, and the hard point doesn't tend to go their way. But who knows? This could be their chance, and obviously not on the preferred side. We saw Chicago do great work on this one earlier in the day, but we'll see what Seattle can do now as they find themselves by no means in a preferred position as OGLA are wiping them out in Warehouse.
Yeah, it's all about breaking the spawns if you're the Seattle Surge. Like I said, versus the Huntsmen, they didn't do it for 4 straight minutes. And the thing is, when they held it on the opposite side, when they did break the spawns, Huntsmen broke it in 45 seconds. So I'm expecting them to get a lot more better on their holds, especially if they do have that AB setup, or even if they're pushing for that backside of the spawn to try to flip it. They only have one player that's currently doing it. It's number 7. It can't be one guy. They need to send multiple players at this. And you see Apathy just finessing his way, just spawning a couple of the players of OGLA out. And as I say that, they're going to be able to take control of B.
Seattle are indeed. OGLA still holding on to the spawns. And in fact, let's actually go to an Astro Gaming listen-in with the OpTic boys.
Sam, one shot top AC.
One guy, let's see. He's deep. Let's see.
Whoever's tires, look at my top scaff for a sec.
Alright. Yeah, what do we see again?
I'm popping in with top AC.
Alright, go.
I gave it up. Top AC. Laying down Sam, and then one guy, I think he's on top of the hut. No, inside P1. He's close left. P1 on top AC.
He does.
I see it. Top scaff. Yo, I need top AC.
You get your ball down. Hey. Hey, love, I'm gonna swing combo. Nice. I'm playing top ball. Give me a second. Let the top ball.
Top scaff dead.
Nice. MB, another guy. Spawn green.
Bro. Double doors, weak. He's pushed through. Green on me. Black, push through A. He's cop car. Green on me. Cop car. Copper, watch out, one shot. Absolutely. Absolutely. AC, hop, AC. Still spawn A.
Alright, AC.
I did too. I need to go.
On it. MB. MB, one shot on me. Røkkr. I should have 2.
I'm gonna middle.
One shot,
I'm coming if you want. Three
shot,
dead.
Red crate, Red crate dead.
I'm looking top. Hey, I push up. I have your mid out. I push up. I guess I mid. I mid hop.
I think I thought you naded me. I gotta get off for a second.
Yo, bottom.
How about I got naded?
Bottom good. Bottom top.
I'm just stand down.
Top hill, absolute. Top green Sam, guys. Aim top AC on me then. Top hill. Nice. Sam was green.
Got to hear the communication there from the OpTic boys study. We talk about it. A young team, a new team at that. Considering the circumstances, what's kind of going on throughout this map early? You like the communication from OG?
Yeah, I definitely like the communication. You heard TJ, he said, I'm just going to go right for C once again. He was able to win one gunfight, get that neutral, and there were players that were from the Surge that were just capping that B flag. But TJ staying alive and being that nuisance all the way at that C flag, winning a couple of gunfights, forces a couple players from the Surge to eventually wrap back and try to neutralize him. They take him down, eventually have to give up that B control once again, and OpTic Gaming, they were able to retake that once again.
Good stuff coming through from OG, continuing to lock down the preferred side. I think it was Merc, I think it was Chance talking about it. They just needed M4 just to sit and fire throughout the entirety of the game, and that's what Hollow is looking to do. In the meantime, kind of toward the front line, it's Kenny. He's on a 5 spree. Of course, the caster curse coming through as he'll be taken down, but Seattle, they're having a rough time just to try to get out of their base as they are just fighting waves and waves of players, layers of OG green, causing issues throughout the middle of Hackney. But 48 seconds left. The Surge, something needs to be done before this game starts to get a little bit more scary in terms of the score is considered. Obviously, preferred side for OG, have to keep that in mind, but looks as if player 2 trying to make his way through. That could be TJ. They actually get the spawn there, so that's going to be a decap at the very least coming in from the OG side. And if you're Surge, things not looking all that solid here late, Study.
Yeah, things are starting to open up for OGLA. They're starting to grow this lead more and more with that neutralization onto that C flag. You had 3 players who were holding that defensive side for that A flag push. There was 1 player from the Seattle Surge trying to make a hero play and trying to stay alive, but OGLA are able to open up at least a 26-point lead going into the second half. And if you're Seattle, I guess you have to be okay with that. Now it's all about holding the proper spawns on the second side of domination. We saw them yesterday only hold it for 45 seconds. If they're able to get a great hold on this, they'll be able to bring themselves back in this game and make it a competitive one.
Time has to happen now for Surge, right?
Yeah.
You kind of look at this particular situation here, Study. You are Seattle, kind of staring down the barrel, if you will, what could be your final map of the regular season. A scary situation to say the least, but obviously as a previous pro player yourself, what are the comms like right now? How do you try to rally back in a situation like this?
It's just one map at a time, man. There's only so much that you can control, especially with 5 players on your team. There's so much stuff going on once at a time, but there needs to be a player that's going to step up and go big. You see Apathy currently 6-13, and we saw him map 1 absolutely dominating on the map. He's going to need to step it up on this if he's going to have his team to try to fight back in this. But you see OpTic Gaming looking like they're going for the trip cap, immediately trying to flip the spawns. Seattle Surge are in a hole.
Oh, Seattle. Seattle, we talked
once
about
again,
it.
it was closer, 40 seconds this time.
Yeah. We've just had the same situation. Like we talked about it. We were like we were talking previously, so we were talking about how we always get game 1 Gunrunner hard points, and we always see teams on Hackney just instantly flip. We had like what, a 45-second one earlier. Obviously for the folks watching at home, you can let me know. I think that was like around like 25-30 seconds. Insane stuff from OpTic. We'll see if they can continue to hold on to this advantage, but by no means a stellar spot if you are the Surge. They're getting taken down left and right, as that will be 4 down for the moment. Proto says goodnight as well as OGLA watching every single situation. They know where the spawns are. Artin gets the kill, but granted, Study, it's a darn 3 cap, my man.
This is getting so bad for the Seattle Surge. Like I said, they just were not able to hold their good side spawns. You have Kenny, who's consistently playing at that green area, not letting any players through. Seattle Surge need to answer and chain a couple kills together. Also, Apathy and Proto need to step up, both sitting at 8-18. They're completely getting outslayed on the side of OGLA, but it's also because they have the preferred spawns. Like I said, they need to flip that and make this game closer. But It's looking like Slack is just going to try to go for the neutralization on B, but TJ is going to be able to take him down.
And you talk about it, right? I mean, the SMGs are having a hard time just because of the map positioning that they're losing, which you could argue it's kind of, what, maybe one causing the other. I think it's kind of a ripple effect of both happening at the same time as Octane rather manages to make the MP5 work to his best ability, but again, Draza over at C. OGLA continuing this same ripple effect to where the contest comes over at B, the contest comes over at A. OGLA, they win the fight, and they continue to make Seattle's home flag vacant. As Octane falls to the middle map, OGLA, it's just looking like they're maybe making the rounds now, Stud.
They're making the proper plays. They always have one player that's sneaking through to that C flag, forcing all the players from the Seattle Surge to spawn at green. And as they do that, they have to focus on that player, wrap back and get their home flag, opening that B flag wide open for OGLA. It's looking like they're going to go for the neutral here. They don't really need that many points. Currently up 47 points with the lead. A minute 50 remaining. Seattle are going to have to string together at least a 2-cap and a neutral, or even a 3-cap to try to eliminate this lead.
How massive it could be for Seattle if they could start to pull this one off late. They managed to break on through to B, and talk about timing. It's got to be now. It has to be here. Seattle Surge, C and B control. Apathy trying to make sure that no one's making that flank back through office, but they can't even focus on it. TJ doing some great work up close, and now Seattle, they hop on A, and that will be the spawn flip. So a minute on the clock. Seattle, granted, appreciate the attempt, but we'll see if it's going to be enough, as they're going to have to continue on this pressure. And if you are OGLA, you pretty much just spawn up, you park the bus, you hang out over at C, you hold on to this 1-cap, and you'll be good. And Slasher trying to mitigate the damage that Apathy is trying to put forth. Coming through the door, Slasher shuts him down. And OGLA, they look to close this out in a hot 3-0.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter even if Seattle are able to get this 3-cap. With them being up 30 points, they can only get a maximum of 36 points with a minute left. Unfortunate, it's only 30 seconds remaining. It's looking like OGLA are going to be able to close this out in a 3-0. And that's huge for the momentum, because they have Chicago Huntsmen next, who are just fresh off a 3-2 loss, and you know they're going to be mad. So this momentum for OGLA, especially winning in the 3-0, is huge for them going into that next series.
It definitely is, man. The Surge are put to bed in a 3-0 end to their regular season. Unfortunate to see, but if you are an OpTic Gaming fan, you're excited about the future of the Toronto home series for your boys. As like you said, they've got a date set up with the Chicago Huntsmen later tonight. It's going to be a fun one, but kind of reflecting back, like we said, we kind of reflect back on the Surge kind of throughout this year here, Study. An unfortunate way for them to kind of go out in this particular place is I believe they are locked into 11th place.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's easy to say they kind of fell low of expectations, and obviously a lot of situations that, you know, aren't too keen for them, but a 3-0 loss like that coming into champs, it's going to have to be a mindset shift, right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, if you're Seattle, you have to go back and just prepare yourself for champs. It's all about consistency for me. You see that for Apathy and for Proto, both sitting at 16 and 27, 16 and 22 for Proto. When it comes to the consistency in the slaying department for these guys, it's just not all there. You always know what Octane's going to bring you. Always consistent or above and beyond. He's like the superstar of this roster. You see Pander at 24 and 16, but going into champs, man, they're gonna need to fix a lot of stuff if they're going to want to place high at that event. You know, with the 11th seed, is not really much you can do. You're gonna start in losers bracket, so your back's gonna be against the wall the entire time. If I'm them, you got to go back and at least perfect at least one game mode. And if you're looking at me, I'm gonna go with the Search and Destroy. Search and Destroys win you championships. There's 2 in every series. If you're able to sneak away at least one of those respawns, and they're a pretty good team at domination, so that's usually their backbone. But when you come into these hard points, if Octane isn't going off and the other players aren't playing consistent, they're majority of the time going to lose them.
I mean, we saw it work for Paris. That was kind of their big emphasis when it came down to the London home series, was kind of a matter of, hey, let's just focus on the search and destroys. We'll kind of win one, respawn. Great. We kind of make our way through. But I couldn't agree more. I mean, Røkkr has kind of called it out. It's been kind of a matter of, hey, trying to win a search and destroy, trying to rely on that mode is probably going to generate you the most success. We'll go and take a look at the scuff play of the game. And it was OGLA's own TJ and Slasher going big kind of at the beginning. We talked about that instant flip over a tire shop. It pretty much broke open the rest of this game here, Stud.
TJ just staying alive all the way at this A flag, spawning the entire Seattle Surge at green. You had players from OGLA spawning by that yellow side towards that C flag. So all the Seattle Surge wanted to do was just try to flip that spawn, but TJ, being the player that he is, so dominant with that submachine gun, was able to eventually push that triple cap in under 30 seconds. And that was like the best case scenario for OpTic Gaming. Going into that second side, only up around 25 points. They were able to just flip it off immediately, and they played that map flawlessly.
As we kind of take a quick look, quick gander here at the bracket, obviously like we talked about OGLA having an ending game there versus the Huntsmen. Your thoughts kind of coming into that series for them? I mean, like kind of expectations, OGLA, things to work on versus a team in the Huntsmen that obviously has been hot as of late.
Honestly, if I'm looking at OGLA in that series, it's all going to come down to the S&D once again. This is a fairly new respawn team, just a fairly new team in general. But with their S&D, they're learning new strats as they go, because Hollow and Draza are brand new players to the roster. When they're going up against Chicago, the slaying power is going to be there for both teams. You see that Slasher's a world champion for a reason. He lives for these kind of moments. So going into that match, their backs are against the wall. They're playing for that top 8 seed, and if they can come out and beat Huntsmen in that series right there, they'll be looking in really good shape.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. OGLA, like we said, they'll advance forward. A lot of kind of expectations for them, but we'll go ahead and take a look at the seedings as they stand currently for right now, as the Surge will officially lock in 11th place. We obviously saw LAG kind of confirm 12th, but like we kind of have been referencing a little bit from time to time, Seattle, not the placement they would prefer, but the storyline kind of continues, right? The big emphasis on OGLA coming into this tournament was that they still can break that top 8 as long as they continue to win. Same emphasis on the Ultra as they pretty much make it through this group. But if you are OpTic, it is going to rely on the match versus Chicago happening at the end of the day, which I know is going to be a fantastic one as we talk about, the playoff picture for the moment. The top 4 teams looking to try and change things up a little bit. If you're Røkkr, if you're Legion, you're getting a little bit scared, but like I said, you're kind of rooting on the opposite team from time to time. But like I said, I'm excited to see the future of OGLA and see kind of the future of how the rest of these matches begin to shape up ahead of champs here, Steady.
Yeah, for sure, man. When we talk about those game fuel keys to victories, Nameless talked about TJ Halley and Slasher stepping up in those search and destroys, being the players that they know that they can be. But it was Kenny for me. Kenny popping that 4-piece in that one round on that defensive. And then in that last round for them, popping another 3. He's really stepping up huge for his roster today in that S&D. If he's able to keep that up, then we should have a tremendous series to end out the night.
Oh, yeah, man. Like I said, we saw Kenny in, I think it was a certain round in particular where he just explodes out of, the bathrooms there on Gunrunner, having an insane performance. TJ as well, like you said, kind of carrying the weight for the team. Slasher, obviously, from time to time was kind of having his moments. And honestly, when you win the 3-0, you're kind of looking at everybody to have a somewhat solid performance. But I think at the very least, a new team, kind of a roster that's still working on the communication as we were discussing it in the Astro comms as well. You know what? This is a team that can utilize victories like this. This is a young roster. You're trying to kind of cater up Hollow and Draza. Kind of from your experience, that when you're trying to utilize new talent, how exactly do you try to manage the new guys kind of throughout their first few events?
It's all about hyping them up. I remember when Zuma was first coming up in the scene, back when we were on our Denial roster, he was basically an S&D star. And then we picked him up on our roster. Every time I looked at him, I was like, Tommy, you're the best player. You're a sub. You can dominate. And that's exactly what you do in your young players. Just install that confidence in them, especially in the big matches.
Definitely. Well, like we talked about, it's OGLA who manages to get the victory. We say goodnight to Surge until, obviously, playoffs take place. But OGLA, they get the W, and now we've got our PlayStation Instant Reaction set up right at the end of this commercial break. It'll be Lottie with Quavo Kenny right after this.